What were some of the great conversations that I had with guests in 2020? Who were the guests during the pandemic? And who was the best guest during 2020? Well, I talk about all that and more on this episode of the Toddcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toddcast. As always, I'm your host, Todd McManus. And like it said in the beginning, in the intro, this is yet another best of episode. And in this episode, we're going to highlight a few more of the guests that were on the Toddcast in the year 2020, which was last year. Of course, pretty much all of 2020 was ravaged through COVID, but you got to make do with what you got. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there is a previous episode of this about 10 weeks ago. I think it was 74 was the episode. I'm guessing. I think that's what it was. There is a previous best of 2020 guests, and you can go check that out as well. But this will be highlighting more and other guests that were on in the year 2020. And we're actually going to highlight 5 different guests in the year 2020. So why don't we go ahead and kick this off with the first clip is from episode 10, all the way back in March 14th, 2020. And I talked with the former ULM president, Dr. Nick Bruno. And we talked about what his favorite part of being the ULM president. Well, what's your favorite part about being the president? Like if you had to pick like one or a few things.
Yeah, I can. That's easy.
That's
the
papers
the
long.
interaction with the students, the interaction with faculty, staff, interaction in the community. I really consider myself a people person, but to learn the stories of our students, our alums, what brought you here? What do you like most about it? What can we do to be better? Those are all things that intrigue me, that motivate me to get up in the morning and get going. And I really believe that the more interest an individual takes in the customer or the student in our case, then the more successful the organization becomes. So I immediately, when I got here, became accessible to students. I go into the cafeteria, I walk around campus, go to as many functions as I can possibly go to. And I really enjoy dealing with the people and, advocating for ULM.
It was good to talk with the then ULM president, Dr. Bruno. Fun fact about this episode that you just heard a piece of it from is that he was the first ever guest that was not a friend of mine at the time. That I never had. This was the first conversation we ever had, because all the guests leading up to episode 10 were people that I knew personally that were going to be on. So he was basically the first non-friend, I guess, or legit host or legit guest, you could say, I guess. And I know he's living it up right now, being retired and all. So this next clip is actually from episode 16, all the way from April 25th, 2020. We're in full swing of COVID in this episode. And I talked with the director of ULM's Chi Alpha, Tyler Gerfers. And we talked about how Chi Alpha adapted during the COVID pandemic. What y'all have done is that you've moved the services from in-person in a room, take out all the audience, and you put a camera in there, and you do it that way. How's that been going so far? Do you think it's been doing really well?
Yeah, it's definitely been a different
without
method.
that physical audience there.
Right. It's definitely a different method, but it's also been very humbling, and I think fruitful too, because we're trying to figure out how to have an online presence and how to actually be excellent with our recording and the messages and everything that we would do, but we're also learning too, how we need to actually speak to the ones that are at home, no matter if this was quarantine or not. We want to figure out how to be better at using something like this so that we can, with a service or another thing we've been doing is Tea Time with T-Gurf, where I just simply answer these questions that people send in and I look at for the first time on this little segment, and it's just stuff that actually is good, where people can, look it up and watch it and listen to it anytime, whether they're at the kitchen table or if they're in their living room or if they're in their room, whatever. And so I think overall I'll say this, it's gone a lot better than I thought it would. And I think we're actually getting better every week. So
since y'all have been doing that on Facebook Live, and that's only where it's at right now, like live only on Facebook.
So we've been using Facebook Live on through our page ULM Chi Alpha. The other thing I mentioned, Tea Time with T-Gurf, that's been uploaded on our YouTube channel. So we're still trying to figure out, there's different options of what we can do, whether it's YouTube Premiere or stuff with Facebook, and then we even have, and then even our website potentially, maybe linking some stuff up on the website. So we're still experimenting with what are all the best ways to get the information out there
and get across different platforms and all that.
Correct.
And would y'all do TNL on Facebook Live, like starting in whenever August comes, the next semester? Would y'all do it even though you have a physical audience, like for people who aren't able to be there or something like that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that we will do that. But I do think basically what I'm saying is, instead of having just a camera in the room for what we're normally doing, I think we're going to look at having something specifically that we record in addition to what we do already on Thursday nights with TNL. So we're going to record something that's specific for that person at home and that person, that wherever they may be, so that it's more applicable to where they're at. I don't think there's anything wrong about having a camera in the back, but I think that there's something unique and powerful about actually being in the room. And so for people that can do that, I want them to be there. But if you can't do that, then we want to have something else for you, which would be this other type of video recording. It still may be it could be still preaching. It still could be like the content, but we want it to be a little bit different, for that. So but we're talking about it. We're still looking at everything,
like fully directed towards the physically there person.
Correct.
Because that's like the big churches, and almost all of them that I know of do either a Facebook Live, and like used to back when I was really young, the church that I went to actually would record it, and then they ended up having like different backlogs of it on like full on VCR tapes. It's like
exactly.
To be able to watch, or for other people to watch if you wanted to. And it's like the big churches do this, that where they're live, and you can just Google them and find them,
Yep.
And because I've thought about that, like full on doing it, which there would be different complications maybe with like having the physical audience and being live, to be honest. But I see what you're saying of how that would probably benefit. And then with the people who only watch the online versions that you do, would like entice them to come and see what we do with the audience, like be with around people and stuff, and see how, and then like we get with other people, and all that kind of stuff. So
exactly.
And that's good, But y'all are still doing it every Thursday. You can check out Tyler. You can get him to add you on Facebook.
Yeah. I'm always looking to make room for
Tyler
people.
Tyler Gerfer is on Facebook at ULM XA. XA stands for Chi Alpha, so y'all all know. ULM XA on Facebook as well, and Instagram, and YouTube now.
Yeah,
right.
And on YouTube and on Facebook, the page is spelled out ULM Chi Alpha, and that's CHIALPHA. But on YouTube, it's ULMXA if you look it up.
So if you go on Facebook, look up ULM Chi Alpha, and it's every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time, of course. It is TNL every Thursday. Always good to talk with Tyler Gerfers, the director of Chi Alpha at ULM. Also, this was his first time on the Toddcast as a guest. He is actually currently a 3-time guest on the Toddcast, which is, of course, not the record for most, but he's in like top 5, I think, his top 5 most appearances on the Toddcast. So, and the way he talked about Chi Alpha adapting, they really did adapt, and they've adapted more. So if you wanted to listen to any other episode that he's been on 2 others, 3 if you include the one that you just heard a clip from. And so this next clip that you're about to listen to is from episode 24 from June 20th, 2020. And I talked with Dr. Ralph Abraham. And we talked about how he became a doctor and his time being a congressman. You originally to join the National Guard?
Look, I totally believe in public service. I think as a race of human beings, one of our goals in life should to always give back to the community from where we came. Being part of the National Guard certainly does that. Those are our citizens, soldiers. These are the men and women in uniform that live among us. They know the community. They know the people in the community. We go buy groceries with them. We go to church with them. So they understand the terrain, and they understand the episodes that happen locally. So I can't think of a better place to serve than somewhere that gives back to the local community and at the same time supports the federal level also.
And after that, did you decide to step away from the National Guard?
I had a choice to make, and it was a very difficult choice at the time. I had gotten into medical school.
Yeah.
And it was a choice between continuing on, because I certainly, if I stayed in the military, wanted to make somewhat of a career out of it, but then I had to choose between that and medical school. I chose medical school. I certainly have maintained a wonderful relationship with the military. I still fly on the auxiliary side for the Coast Guard and the Civil Air Patrol, so I try to keep my toe in the water. And again, I love the military, the structure of the military, and the people of the military.
And you say you were in medical school. Were you already a vet at this time?
I had been practicing veterinary medicine for 10 years before I chose to try to go back to human medical school. So I was that mid-30s year old guy that had to or decided to make somewhat of a career change. Medicine is medicine, and veterinary medicine is not a lot different than human medicine. But of course, you have to have certainly different training.
Yeah. And personally, in your opinion, have you enjoyed being a doctor, human doctor more?
Well, I loved them both. I'm happiest when I'm in an exam room with a patient, listening to their concerns, hopefully being part of a solution to their problems. So yeah, I really enjoy the human aspect of human medicine.
And then, so you've been a doctor for a long time now.
All my life. All my adult life, either a DVM or an MD.
And then I remember when you decided to run for Congress.
Right.
What was, why Congress? What was that decision?
Back in those days, I was working, in my medical practice very hard. And if you remember, Todd, we would open at 6 o'clock in the morning. We'd work until 6 o'clock at night. And we just worked. It was a rural hospital, rural community clinic. So there was a big need, and we just wanted to provide that need for the people of the community. But because of the way I structure my life, every night about 7 o'clock I would get home, and Diane, my wonderful wife, would have dinner, or what we call in the South, supper ready. And at that time we would usually turn to one of the cable news aspects, whether it was Fox or CNN or one of them, and just watch what was going on or what had happened that particular day. And we started noticing that things just kept, in our opinion, started to get in a little worse. And we were at the point of our lives that if we were going to do something politically, now was the time we had to do it. So the decision was made that we would run for the 5th Congressional District. We were fortunate to win the district. We ran hard, ran a good campaign, but we ran because we thought the country needed to go in a little bit of a different direction at that point.
Yeah. And then you even want to take that a step further and run for the governor of Louisiana. Exactly. What was was it the same mindset?
It was. Again, we are of the Republican Party on my side, and again we have John Bell Edwards, who's a Democrat, and I like John Bell. We are good acquaintances. But again, because of the difference of politics, there are different ideas of how things can be done, should be done, and how they will be done. And certainly, if you have watched my congressional record, I'm pro-life, pro-gun, very conservative fiscally. And, I saw the state, again, going in a direction where, debt was mounting up. Some of the social issues were somewhat things that I disagreed with. And, our businesses were leaving the state in droves. Look at what our oil and gas industry is at this time. I mean, oil prices are in the tank. The oil and gas industry is still pretty much the lifeline and the umbilical cord of the Louisiana economy. We have other great businesses, certainly in Louisiana, but if you take away our oil and gas, then we're somewhat dead in the water. And again, a lot of civil litigation against our oil and gas companies right now, and these were things that I thought that if elected, I would address and perhaps do it a different way.
And you are leaving Congress this year, right?
I promised when I ran the first time that I would run only 3 terms and then either run for another office or get out. I am a firm believer in term limits. The founders never meant for a member of Congress to make a career out of being a politician. We have people up in Congress now, and these are good people, but they have been there sometimes decades. And I just disagree with that concept. I think fresh blood is good in politics, fresh ideas, fresh people, because that's the way not only a economy grows, but it's the way a country grows. And I fear we become stagnated if we have the same people in the same job doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah. And do you think you'll ever run for any other?
I don't know. I always leave doors open. I have to be mindful of my age. I'm mid-60s, and we another few years down the road, physically, or will I be capable of it? Well, I don't know. So, it's just a question that I'll leave unanswered. It depends on what doors open.
Also, another fun fact about this episode that you just listened to with Dr. Abraham, he is actually my doctor. He is my real life doctor. And so I kind of see him somewhat often, once a month or so, whenever I go get allergy shots and that kind of, or need any kind of doctor things, whenever I need some meds or need to go get a shot, he's like my doctor. So, and who knows? He might actually run for governor or another office before it's all said and done. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out to see what actually happens next. This next clip is from episode 36, all the way from September the 12th, 2020, where I talked to the West Monroe mayor, Stacy Mitchell, and her and I talked about why she decided to run for mayor and what it's like to run a political campaign. How did you originally run for mayor? What was that whole thing like?
Well, I was appointed to be an alderman in 2011. I took the place. Sam Yeager, who had been a long-serving alderman, did pass away. And so I was appointed to take his place. Enjoyed it, for a few months, and then there was a special election. So I did win that election to be an alderman. And just being involved, I've always been community-minded, always wanted to be involved in civic organizations and just being part of the government. And part of, being part of the solution and not the problem. You hear people all the time say, well, they should go fix that road, and maybe they should do this and they should do that. Well, somebody's got to be the they.
Yeah.
And so, take responsibility and be part of it. So as an alderman, people kept asking me, well, you should run for mayor. When are you going to do this? And that type of thing. And at the time, Mayor Norris had been mayor for many years and done a fantastic job and was talking about retirement. And that's when people just kept coming up to me and contacting me and saying, you really need to run for mayor. Mayor Norris is going to retire. And so that's when I said, okay, I think I'm ready to do this.
Did he give you any pointers or anything? Because he was mayor for so long, he had to know a little bit about it.
I did learn a lot from Mayor Norris, just serving on the council from 2011 until 2018 when the election was, because he did decide to run, so there was an election. And but yes, I learned a lot from Mayor Norris.
And so you, of course, running for mayor in any political office, really, you got to run a campaign.
Yes.
Was that easy, difficult? How was that?
Running a campaign to me is fun. I enjoy it now, but in this one, because it was the alderman to the elections, I did with myself and with a good friend named Wade Bishop who helped tremendously with some campaign experience. Yeah. When I ran for mayor, still had my husband there with me helping because he had again experience. Wade Bishop helped, but we did hire a consultant to help with that as well, because one, I still owned a business, still had to make money. That was my job, and had employees and to support and make sure they got paid and all. But one, just someone with the experience. It's always better, in my opinion, to hire a professional to do a job, and so we did.
Oh, okay.
But I did learn a lot doing it, and it's interesting things that you do learn doing a campaign.
But so after you won, the election night, all that, the results, did you ever have a moment of I'm the mayor now? It's I'm the mayor of my city that I grew up in, graduated from, still live here.
I still have those feelings.
It's I'm still the mayor.
Yeah, I still have those feelings. But yes, I actually do remember that night. One, before it was actually announced on the Secretary of State site that I had won, we already had all the counts from the polling places, because you can go around and get the numbers after the polls close. So we knew I had won. Yeah. But everybody kept letting. I was I am not celebrating until I see it on the TV. Yeah, I got to see the Secretary of State.
Got to tell you.
Yeah, I got to see the Secretary of State site that says, get the check in the box there. So that was pretty surreal feeling. And then again, happy that evening. I can remember getting home, finally getting in bed and laying in bed. And I told my husband, I'm going to be the mayor.
Yeah. It's I'm the mayor.
Yeah, just 3 months. I'm going to be sworn in. Yeah. And, but no, it's good. It's one of those things too. And I think owning a business and being the head, if you want to say that where the buck ends with with the owner, the buck stops there, is the same thing here. No, we have 300 employees at the city, and no, I am, I don't know what every one of them do every day. I try to instill in them the customer service, pay attention to detail, what we're doing for our citizens and what our purpose is. But at the same time, I also know that it all ends up with me. I am if something goes wrong, I will be the one that will be blamed, or ask about it. It's the same. So owning a business is the exact same thing. I mean, I had great employees. Whether you have 2 employees or 300 employees, you're still responsible for the overall direction of that business or the city, the how your employees act, the what you give off to people as far as how things are handled and things. So I think it prepared me very well for this job.
And since you are the mayor, there's probably not, every day is not the same. Even though you've been mayor for 2 years now, yes. It's every day is a newer day. Uh-huh. Would you say anything is what would you say is a typical day? Come to my office, do this. What is the norm, you would say?
Well, I guess that it's not norm, and virtually, especially right now. I mean, I think I've probably dealt with more pandemic or disasters in the last 2 years than I don't even know how many disasters Mayor Norris had, dealt with, but it seems like there's a lot of them right now. But so we are definitely in disaster mode, if you would, and being fiscally conservative so that we can make sure. My number one concern is making sure that our employees are taken care of. They're able to get be paid, and we have money to do that. But also continue with our projects. We have a lot of good projects, either going on at the moment or on the horizon, and things we're working towards. So that's basically keeping our city functioning and keeping people, making sure we're providing the high level services, the quality of services that they are used to receiving. So right now my days have been like, okay, what's meetings, answer questions, a lot of department head questions like, okay, how do we want to handle this, how do we want to handle that. New hires, I have a new Parks and Rec director, so making sure that he has everything he needs to do his job, or as he has questions. Also, meeting with people about ideas and projects. Yesterday I met with someone that's interested in putting a development on the golf course property. Also met with a company that is looking to expand here, and how we can assist them with that, if there's like economic development grants and that type of things available. So it's a lot of everything.
Yeah.
This morning, today's National Day of Service, so this morning I was out working at Restoration Park.
Also, I guess I'm just telling all y'all the behind-the-scenes fun facts about these, is all I'm saying. Another fact about this episode with Mayor Stacy Mitchell is that this episode with her and the one with Dr. Abraham that y'all heard earlier, is these two episodes are actually two of the shortest episodes in Toddcast history. And actually the shortest episode was actually earlier this year, to be honest with y'all. This last clip here is from episode 44, all the way from November 7th, 2020, where I talked with the then interim chancellor of Monroe's Louisiana Delta Community College. And this episode was recorded in two separate locations, just to let y'all know. I was at my house, and Mr. Broadwater was in his truck driving, so it may sound a little off at some points. But we talked about the Bridging the Bayou program that is between ULM and Louisiana Delta, and how this program will benefit both students. This new program that
I think
Delta
it
ULM have
can
agreed
be
on.
one of the most significant contributions to higher education in Louisiana, and should go statewide as partnerships between every 2-year school and every 4-year school in a service region, for several reasons. The concept behind the program, and Edwin Litoff and I were the ones that started that discussion. Then Dr. Berry has been an unbelievable champion of it. Our goal behind that was that any individual who decides that they want to get additional education to better themselves and prepare themselves for the workplace, that we ought to remove all barriers and make it possible for them to succeed. There are a lot of individuals from around the state and even outside the state that their dream is they want to be a ULM Warhawk. And that is a great dream to have. The truth is that not everyone meets the criteria to meet those admission standards to get there. And so the answer for them should never be no, but we should have something in place that helps them achieve that dream. And so the concept behind this was, when someone applies at ULM, if they, for some reason, don't have the academic background, or they aren't considered to be academically ready to go to that next step, rather than telling them, no, you've been denied admission, the answer ought to be, yes, we want to help you succeed in that. And the way we're going to do it is through a partnership with Louisiana Delta Community College. And so ULM could continue to help enroll them, but let them start by taking classes through Louisiana Delta Community College on the campus of ULM. Let them become part of that college community and that life, make their friends, be in the dorm, be there in the dining hall, and let us do what is necessary to get them ready for that handoff. And nothing would make me happier than being able to tell somebody, you really don't need to be a student at Louisiana Delta Community College anymore. You're ready to be a student at ULM. And so we want to help by working collaboratively, always have the answer to someone who says, this is my goal. I want to get a 4-year degree, to tell them, yes, we have already figured out how to help you succeed in doing that, and we're going to work with you. So our goal behind this is to have every single person who wants to get their bachelor's degree, that the answer is yes. Some can go directly into ULM, some can come through us first, but put them in that environment where they wanted to be in the first place and help them get there. Frankly, my goal is I would love to have the same partnership with Grambling. I've already talked with Rick Gallo, the president there. He has been just a tremendous supporter of this. And I would love to see it at Louisiana Tech as well. And we serve that region. We took the model from Southeastern University in Hammond and their partnership with North Shore Technical Community College. And it's succeeding there. Southeastern is the #1 transfer school for students coming out of the community and technical college system in the state. What I would hope to see is that going forward, ULM, Grambling, and Tech would be the #1 transfer institutions together, and that Delta helps people move on that next step in their higher education journey.
That was a good talk with Mr. Chris Broadwater. And another fun fact, I guess, just another fact about these episodes, about this one actually. This is the only episode that was recorded in 2 separate locations with the guest driving. And there actually have been a few other episodes that were recorded in 2 separate locations, of course, but this one, he was actually driving on interstate at the time, so that's why it may sound a little off and all that, that's why it sounded that way. So, but I just wanted to say thank you to all these guests that y'all heard, these 5 different guests, and thank you to all the guests that have ever been on the Toddcast, of course. And hopefully some of these guests that you heard of will hopefully be on in the future at some point. And they may, in some of these that were on more than one episode, may appear in a future best of episode, to be honest with all of you. So you never know. So you'll just have to tune in to see if there's any repeats on best of episodes. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. Once again, thank you to all those guests that have been on, creating memories, and for me to actually meet people that I never thought I would ever meet in my life. So thank you all of them, and to thank you for listening to this episode. And as always, please rate and subscribe. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to get notified when new videos are uploaded. And make sure you follow the Toddcast only on Instagram at _Toddcast_, only on Instagram, for any updates and to see pictures of anything that I review and picture of me and the guests on that week. And make sure you tell your friends and your family to give it a listen. And just thank all of you once again for listening to this episode. And if you want to know what's going to happen next week, well, you're just going to have to tune in to find out. Only on the Toddcast.